The wedding was picture perfect, or so everyone believed. The sun bathed the coastal estate in golden light, casting a dreamy glow over the manicured hedges and rose-covered archways. Inside the marquee, laughter flowed as freely as the champagne. Elena looked radiant in her ivory gown, her smile wide, her eyes shimmering with what everyone assumed was joy. But behind the lens, Adam saw everything. He'd been hired last minute, a favor to an old friend. Elena wants only the best, he was told, though she barely acknowledged him. She was too focused on the groom, Darren Maddox, a rising name in politics, known more for his ambition than his authenticity. Adam had been shooting weddings for 12 years. He'd seen tears of joy, fake smiles, secret glances, and nervous breakdowns behind locked dressing rooms. He knew where to look and when to click. And on that day, the camera told a story no one else saw. It began with the pre-ceremony shots, Darren checking his phone incessantly, smiling at something that had nothing to do with Elena. Then came the whispers between him and a bridesmaid, Chloe, who looked far too familiar with the groom's cologne. Still, nothing solid. Nothing that couldn't be explained away. But during the toast, everything changed. Adam had zoomed in to capture Elena's reaction to her father's heartfelt speech. Behind her, just out of focus but visible enough, Darren leaned toward Chloe. Her lips brushed his ear. His hand slid across her lower back. Click. Later, Adam wandered toward the cliffs near the estate for a sunset shot of the couple. He heard voices before he saw them, Darren and Chloe, not Elena. After the election, Darren was saying, "I'll handle it. She's useful for now." Click. The shutter snapped softly, unnoticed in the wind. The camera caught Darren's smirk, Chloe's hand resting on his chest, her expression anything but guilty. Adam hesitated. He was here to shoot joy, not detonate lives. But something in Elena's distant, too-perfect smile had haunted him all day. Maybe she already knew. Maybe she needed the truth captured in black and white. 3 days later, Adam sent the official album. A private folder was included. Title for the bride's eyes only. No commentary. Just photos. He never heard back. No thank you. No complaint. But a month later, Darren's campaign collapsed. A leak scandal. Secret affair. Anonymous sources. Chloe disappeared from social media. Elena's Instagram, however, told a different tale. Solo travels, bold captions, and one photo in particular. Elena standing on a beach at sunset, holding a camera. The caption read, "Thank you for the truth. The camera never lies." Elena stared at the folder Adam had labeled for the bride's eyes only. Her hands trembled slightly as she double-clicked it, though her expression didn't change. She already knew. Somewhere deep inside, she'd known for months, maybe even years. But now here it was, truth in pixels. Each photo felt like a slow-motion explosion. Darren's wandering eyes during the ceremony, the way Chloe's hand gripped his wrist like she'd done 100 times before, the almost kiss they shared behind her back while she toasted their future. And then the cliffs, that final image. Darren's mouth curved in that smug, practiced smirk. Chloe's gaze locked on him like she was the one wearing the veil. A scream rose in Elena's throat, but didn't escape. She simply closed the laptop, walked to the mirror, and stared at herself. She still looked like a bride, but inside, something had shattered and quietly rearranged itself. She waited. She waited while Darren basked in his political glow, while news outlets called them the golden couple, and while Chloe attended events pretending to be nothing more than a supportive friend. And then Elena made her move, slow, precise, like a surgeon exposing a tumor. She released the photos anonymously, through a journalist she trusted. She sent them along with a note. "You chase power. I chase truth. Let's see who gets there first." The backlash was immediate. Darren's image cracked under pressure. Sponsors dropped him. Donors disappeared. Voters lost faith in a man who had promised integrity and transparency, but couldn't even keep a vow for 24 hours. Elena said nothing publicly, not a word, but the silence became her loudest weapon. Part 3. Shuttered past, open future. Months passed. Elena traveled. Morocco, Florence, Kyoto. She took photographs of her own, sunsets, broken cobblestones, faces of strangers who didn't expect anything from her. She enrolled in a film program in Lisbon, bought a second-hand Leica, and somewhere between frame 324 and 372, she learned to smile for real again. One rainy afternoon in a quiet cafe, she saw a message notification from Adam, Lisbon suits you. I recognize the beach in your last post. Glad the truth helped. If you ever need someone to help shoot your next story, I'm a call away. She stared at the screen for a long time, a soft smile forming. She took a picture of her espresso, the cloudy window, the cobbled street, sent it back with 3 words. Truth finds focus. Epilogue. The lens remembers. Years later, Elena's documentary Framed Lies, the story they try to hide, will win a European Film Award. It opened with one of Adam's original wedding shots, the cliffside image of Darren and Chloe, unaware they were being watched. The camera had caught them, and the world had finally learned. The camera never lies. It only waits for someone brave enough to look. 2 years later, Elena returned to the city she once called home. The skyline hadn't changed, but the way people looked at her had. No longer Mrs. Maddox, no longer a bride scorned. Now she was a director, the filmmaker, the woman who exposed a polished political lie with a quiet shudder. She hadn't planned to see Darren again, but when her documentary was nominated for a major international award and her team insisted on a local premiere, she couldn't say no. He would be there. She was sure of it, and he was. Darren Maddox walked into gala as if scandal had never touched him. Perfect suit, dazzling smile, arm in arm with a new blonde who looked barely old enough to order wine. He even had the audacity to approach her during the reception, holding a glass of whiskey like it was a shield. Elena, he said smoothly, you've turned your 15 minutes into something impressive. She tilted her head, expression unreadable. And you turned yours into a cautionary tale. He chuckled, but there was tension behind his eyes. She could tell. Cameras hadn't followed him lately. Endorsements had vanished. He was reduced to selling speaking slots and fake smiles. But then he leaned in closer. You got your story. But you never asked why, he whispered. Did it ever occur to you that you weren't the target? That maybe you were the cover? Her spine stiffened. What are you talking about? But Darren didn't answer. He gave her a knowing look and slipped into the crowd. The words haunted her. You were the cover. Elena began digging, not into her marriage, but into Darren's rise. His sudden campaign funding, his connections. Chloe had been a betrayal, yes, but was she part of something bigger? In an old drive she thought she'd erased, she found metadata embedded in one of Adam's original photos, coordinates, timestamps, and one unexplained tag, asset 401.beta. It wasn't something her camera would have added, and Adam never used tags like that. A friend in cybersecurity confirmed her suspicion. Someone had intercepted the files, embedded their own code, possibly tracking software. But why? And who? Elena went to Adam. Met him in a quiet bar on the coast. I didn't put that tag there, he said, concern flickering in his eyes. But if they were watching you, it wasn't just about Darren. Then what was it? He hesitated, then pulled out a worn envelope. I wasn't going to show you this, but the day after your wedding, someone delivered this to my studio. No name, just a note. The note read, she doesn't know what she's in the middle of, but your camera does. Inside the envelope was a single photograph. Elena, standing alone on the cliffside, and behind her, barely visible in the shadows, a man in a black coat holding a listening device aimed at her. What began as a personal betrayal had unraveled into something much deeper, a surveillance operation, planted evidence, and a political machine that used people like Elena to create a storybook image while laundering power behind the scenes. Darren was just a pawn. The real players were still hidden. Elena's next documentary wouldn't be about weddings or heartbreak. It would be about manipulation, intelligence fronts, and how the media image of the perfect couple was weaponized to distract the public while government contracts were funneled through shell companies tied to foreign interests. It would be dangerous. She knew that, but the truth was always dangerous, especially when the camera finds what no one meant to show. Elena sat in her modest studio apartment, the walls lined with film reels, memory cards, and newspaper clippings. The floor was scattered with photos, some old, some recent, some still too dangerous to name. She had spent months tracing connections. Darren's campaign tied to a shell company in Cyprus, Chloe linked to an international lobbying firm with military contracts, and the mysterious man behind her on the cliff, identified through facial recognition as a former intelligence operative long thought dead. They had tried to erase the evidence, but her camera had already seen too much. On a rainy afternoon, a letter slid under her door. No address, no name. Inside, a single message. You were never the target. You were the trigger. Stop before they aim again. She held it in shaking hands, then burned it in a ceramic bowl by the window. It was over, at least for now. 1 year later, Elena walked through the Musée de la Photographie in Paris, where her exhibit was headlining, Truth in Frame. Crowds gathered around a large black and white image at the center of the gallery. A woman, in a wedding dress, stood on a cliff. Behind her, a shadow with a device. And behind that, the golden glow of a perfect sunset. Beneath the photo, a plaque read, "The camera doesn't judge. It doesn't manipulate. It simply waits for us to look." A voice behind her said softly, "Still not afraid?" She turned. It was Adam, older, wearier, but still carrying that same worn Leica. "Always afraid," she replied, smiling faintly, but never out of focus. Final scene. That night, Elena stood on a balcony above the Seine, holding her camera. She pointed it at the city, the lights, the shifting fog. No one posed. No one smiled. But the world moved and the camera watched. She clicked the shutter once. A soft sound. A loud truth. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't need a caption. The story had already been told.